Hello, welcome to Greater Cleveland Aquarium. My name's Ray, and we are in our sea tube in our shark habitat today. Behind me, you're going to see a lot of our stingrays. Here at Greater Cleveland Aquarium, we have 4 different species of stingray. 3 of them are saltwater, and 1 of them is freshwater. We've got a hybrid over there as well that's part of the same species. So let's talk about those ones first, because they're kind of unique, and little people are a little bit surprised about them. Freshwater rays are found in a lot of the major river systems around the world. In both South America, Africa, and Asia. And what's really interesting about them is they usually grow to a little bit different shape and size than our saltwater ones do. Some of them are some of the largest species of stingray in the world, actually. They're living in all these different river systems and very murky waters typically. So we usually look at and think about our saltwater species being in very clear, nice, pristine ocean waters. A lot of the rivers that the freshwater rays in are very murky, very cloudy, just by nature, just because they're muddy, turbulent environments. And so they've actually developed a really good sense of their electrical sense. So sharks and rays have this really cool ability to detect electrical impulses. So every time your mussel moves, you make a little electrical impulse. They can actually use that really, really well, along with sense of smell and sense of touch, to find food prey all over the bottoms of these rivers. Really cool stuff. Now, over here in our saltwater habitats, places like our shark exhibit, we've got our cow-nosed stingrays, which are the most abundant ones you're going to see behind me. We've also got some southern stingrays in this habitat. Those are a little bit larger, kind of brown, more diamond-shaped, if you will, kind of round and diamond-shaped. There's actually one right above us right now. And so those guys are really interesting, a little bit different than the cow-nosed rays. Those are more of your classic benthic, bottom-dwelling stingrays. You're going to find them up and down the Atlantic seaboard, through the Gulf of Mexico. Very common, very abundant species. Then we've got our cow-nosed rays, which are our most abundant, both in this habitat as well as here on property at all. Most of ours have actually been born on site, and that includes the entire population in the touch pool and quite a few of the ones here in the shark habitat. Now these guys are also a coastal species. They're going to be found kind of near inshore, up and down the Atlantic seaboard, a little bit into the Gulf of Mexico as well. They're a real active source. You don't see them on the bottom or hiding under the sand like we think of as most stingrays, which is what those southern rays would do. They're going to be cruising up and down the coastal seashores, usually in shoals, in large groups. So you'll see ours here are actually very social. They're usually hanging out in their school, but in stingray we usually call it a shoal instead. But these guys are very active, and they've got a really successful, high success of reproduction in zoos and aquariums. So especially here, we've had a great success over the years. Like I said, the bulk of our population now are all native-born local Clevelanders, which is kind of crazy to think about saltwater stingrays as native Clevelanders. Then our 4th species of stingray we have here is over in our touch pool. We got a real small guy, about maybe yay big, dinner plate size, with a little pointed nose, and that's our Atlantic stingray. But very similar to the southern stingray, it's going to be in the same genus, very similar behaviors, similar habitats, less in the Gulf of Mexico, mostly up and down the coast. And some of the stuff these guys all have in common, aside from those regionality issues of being up and down the Atlantic coast and into the Gulf of Mexico, is going to be their general diet. So stingrays, pretty much universally, there's a few exceptions, a couple weirdos out there, are benthic feeders. So they're going to be feeding off of things on the seafloor, so crabs and shrimp and clams and scallops and mussels, and all those little crunchy bits of things that are down there, typically attached to the seafloor or hiding in the sand. What's really interesting with that is when you watch them feed, when they're trying to get stuff out of the sand, they can actually use their mouths to blow water at the sand and move the sand around to kind of munch around and find the food that's in the sand. So a lot of these animals, like shrimp and scallops and different types of clams, do bury in the sand. With our cow-nosed rays, if you look at them, they've got these little flaps that come down off the front of their face. Those flaps are what help them bulldoze around in the sand even better. So at feeding time, if you come check out these guys during feedings, you'll see them lower those little flaps and skim the sand bed and move around the sand. So those are some of the big similarities. And then you start asking, well, a lot of time we talk about stingrays and sharks together. Why is that? And what makes them similar? The biggest thing is going to be their skeleton. So whereas we have skeleton made out of bone, out of hardened mineral, calcium-based, right? Pretty standard across the animal world. Sharks and stingrays have a cartilaginous skeleton. So cartilage, what's in your nose, in your ears, keeps your kneecaps from rubbing around when you're younger. That's what their whole skeleton's made out of, top to bottom. There's hardened portions of it that make up their teeth and their jaws, but everything else is flexible cartilage. And this actually goes to why we don't have a lot of really great info about them in the historical fossil record, because that soft tissue of cartilage doesn't fossilize very well. But it's what makes them so flexible. So you watch our stingrays and that flapping motion they've got, that's all because of that very flexible cartilage in their skeleton.